The best way to destroy an enemy is to make him your friend. But my friends, sometimes the people who wronged you will never face you again, not because they fear your anger, but because they can't survive their own reflection when you stand in front of them. That's the truth they don't want you to see, and that's the weight they carry every single time your name comes up, every time you walk into the room, every time your presence slices through the excuses they've been hiding behind. And before we dive in deep, press that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what we're about to break down will change how you see their silence forever. And trust me, folks, you'll want to stay with me till the end, because once you hear this, you'll never mistake their avoidance for indifference again. Hey, folks, imagine this. You walk into a room, not saying a single word, not trying to prove anything, not even looking for them. Yet suddenly, their face changes. They glance at their phone like it just turned into the most fascinating novel they've ever read. They force a laugh at someone else's joke, or they suddenly remember they've got somewhere else to be. You haven't done a thing, but the air just shifted. Why? Because in you, they see the one thing they've been running from, the truth about themselves. It's funny in a way, isn't it? You become a walking mirror, and every time they look at you, it's like someone just held up the receipts they swore were burned years ago. The receipts of betrayal, the receipts of lies, the receipts of disrespect. And no matter how many stories they spin to cover it up, no matter how many distractions they pile on top, one look at you and it all comes flooding back. That's not fear of you, that's fear of the reflection you awaken inside them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Think about that for a moment. You don't have to shout, you don't have to fight, you don't have to chase. You just have to stand there, living, breathing, thriving, and your very existence dismantles the story they told themselves to sleep at night. That's why they avoid you. Not because you're weak, but because you became too strong for their lies to stand against. And here's the hard truth, my friends, avoidance is not peace. People love to say, "I just want peace, I don't want drama." But true peace can look you in the eye, shake your hand, and smile without a flinch. Avoidance is not peace. Avoidance is camouflage. It's fear in disguise. It's the silent apology they'll never speak. Imagine you're holding a mirror made not of glass but of truth. Every time they see you, it's like standing under a spotlight they never signed up for. They see not just what they did, but who they were when they did it. That's the part that eats at them. That's the part they can't scrub off. And it's why their silence, their distance, their disappearing act. It's not rejection of your worth. It's the loudest proof of their shame. So don't misread it. Don't think you're invisible or forgotten. My friends, you are unforgettable. You are the standard they failed to meet, the story they can't rewrite, the chapter they wish never existed but can't erase. Their silence is not power, it's confession. And your calm, your steadiness, your refusal to chase is the punishment they handed themselves. And that's where your freedom lies, not in revenge, not in proving a point, but in living with such dignity, such peace, that every glance they steal at you only deepens their own regret. Folks, that's what Stoicism is about. You don't control what they do, you control how you respond, and you've chosen strength. So let's set the tone right now. Type it down in the comments. I rise without revenge. Show yourself, show me, show the world that you've chosen power over pettiness. And while you're at it, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me till the end. Because what's coming next will not only open your eyes, it will free your heart. Number 1, the mirror effect. When truth walks in, lies scatter. Those words cut deeper than any sword, because that is exactly what happens when your presence collides with the people who once mistreated you. They can't stand there and look you in the eye anymore, not because you're hostile, not because you're seeking revenge, but because in you they see the one thing they fear the most, the truth about themselves. And the truth is heavier than any punishment you could ever hand them. Picture this, my friends. You walk into a room, nothing fancy, just you being you. Maybe it's a family gathering, maybe it's at work, maybe it's an old circle of friends you haven't seen in a while. You're calm, you're collected, you're not even thinking about them. Yet the second your presence fills that space, they shift. They glance at their phone as if the most important message just arrived. They fumble with their keys, their bag, their drink. They force laughter at someone else's joke, just loud enough to prove they're fine. And if all else fails, they suddenly remember they have to leave early. You've said nothing, you've done nothing, but their entire body betrays the weight they carry. And that weight, my friends, is shame. Why does it play out this way? Because when they see you, they see a mirror. Not the kind you hang on the wall, but a mirror made of truth. And truth, unlike lies, can't be bent to fit their comfort. Every time they catch a glimpse of you, they see not just what they did, but what that moment revealed about who they are, and that is unbearable. Ask yourself this: if someone believed they had acted with integrity, would they need to avoid you? Would they need to look away, cross the street, or pretend they never noticed you? Of course not. They could look you in the eye without hesitation. But when someone wronged you, when they betrayed, disrespected, or diminished you, they created a fracture inside themselves. That fracture reopens every time they see you because you are the living reminder of the test they failed. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong, I'll change gladly, for truth is my highest pursuit." But notice this: when someone avoids you, they're not proving anything. They're not even standing tall enough to admit what happened. Instead, they run. Why? Because standing in front of you would mean standing in front of the truth. And the truth whispers the one thing they don't want to hear. I failed. I showed my weakness. I revealed a part of myself I can't take back. This is why avoidance is so tricky. To the untrained eye, it might look like indifference. You might even question yourself, do they not care? Did I not matter? Have they moved on without a second thought? But the lie here is that avoidance equals peace. That's not true. Avoidance equals proof. Because if they were truly at peace, they could meet you face to face, smile genuinely, and move on with their life. But they can't. They avoid, because every glance at you strips away the mask they've been wearing. Think about it this way. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents a moment they want to forget, a lie they told, a betrayal they committed, a disrespect they showed. At first, maybe the backpack feels manageable. They even convince themselves it's not there. But every time they see you, it's like someone doubles the weight. Suddenly, their shoulders tense, their breath shortens, their mind scrambles for escape. That's not because you added anything, it's because you exist, and your existence reactivates the shame they've buried. And here's the hard truth, my friends. Shame is not like guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, there's something wrong with me. And that's why it cuts so deep. Because it's not about the act anymore, it's about their identity. When they see you, they're forced to confront a question they'd rather leave unanswered. If I could do something cruel to someone good, what does that say about me? That's the mirror effect, and it's a mirror they cannot smash. Why is it so difficult for them? Because facing shame requires courage. It requires looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I was wrong, I was cruel, I was small. And most people, folks, simply don't have the strength to do that. So instead of facing the reflection, they avoid it. They avoid you. They avoid conversations that could reveal it. They avoid spaces where your presence might undo the story they've been telling themselves. It's easier for them to hide than to heal, but here's the beauty of it. Your job is not to make them face it. Your job is not to corner them, demand apologies, or force acknowledgement. Your job is to stand tall, to keep living, to keep rising, and to know that their avoidance is not a rejection of you, but a reflection of them. You are not invisible. You are unforgettable. You are the page in their story they can't erase, no matter how hard they try. So when they avoid you, don't let that plant fear or doubt in your mind. Don't let their silence trick you into believing you weren't worth it. Their silence is the loudest confession. Their glance away is the courtroom verdict. Their sudden exit is the unspoken apology. Every time they dodge you, they're admitting the truth they can't say out loud. I know what I did, and I can't face it. And that's where your strength shines, because you didn't break, you didn't collapse, you didn't let their actions define you. You kept walking, you kept building, you kept rising, and now every step you take is another crack in the narrative they use to protect themselves. You are the evidence they can't refute, the standard they failed to uphold, the reflection they cannot escape. So let this be your reminder, folks. The mirror effect is not your burden. It's their punishment. You don't need revenge. You don't need their words. You don't need to beg for closure. You already won by surviving, by healing, by becoming the living proof that integrity outlasts betrayal. Say it with me right now and type it in the comments. I am the mirror they cannot escape. Show me, show yourself, show the world around you that you know the power you carry. And stay with me, because what comes next will open your eyes even deeper into why shame is the silent sentence they can't outrun, no matter how far they run. Number 2, guilt versus shame. Why shame cuts deeper. Shame is the most powerful master emotion. It's the fear that we are not good enough. Brené Brown said this, and whether you've read her or not, you've probably felt that truth echo in your own life. Guilt and shame, on the surface they sound similar, but my friends, they live in two completely different worlds. And when it comes to why they can't face you anymore, guilt alone isn't strong enough to send someone running. Shame is the real culprit. Shame is the silent punishment that follows them long after the act, long after the excuse, long after the mask. Let's paint the picture. Imagine guilt as a sharp stone you step on while walking barefoot. It hurts in the moment, maybe even makes you wince, but once you take your foot off it, the pain fades. You learn, you step more carefully, and you move on. Shame, on the other hand, is like quicksand. Once you step into it, you sink deeper the more you struggle. It doesn't just sting for a moment. It traps you, wraps around you, and makes escape nearly impossible without serious effort. That's why when they see you, it's not guilt that pulls their eyes to the ground. It's shame pulling them under. Think about guilt first. Guilt says, I did something wrong. It's action-based. It attaches to the behavior, not the identity. For example, you spill coffee on a friend's favorite shirt. You feel guilty. You apologize, offer to replace it, maybe laugh about it later. The guilt fades once you've made it right. Even in bigger mistakes, guilt has a pathway forward. It can be confessed, repaired, released. That's why guilt is uncomfortable, but it's not usually unbearable. Now compare that to shame. Shame whispers something much darker. Shame says, there's something wrong with me. It's not about the action anymore. It's about the person. It attacks the self, the identity, the core. Instead of, I did a bad thing, shame says, I am bad. And that difference, my friends, is why shame drives people into avoidance, into silence, into years of running from the mirror of your presence. Here's a metaphor for you. Picture two co-workers. The first forgets to forward you an important email. That's guilt. They made a mistake. They can own it, apologize, maybe even laugh it off the next day. The second coworker, though, deliberately sabotages your project, taking credit for your work so they can shine. That's not guilt anymore. That's shame waiting to be born. Because deep down, they know that wasn't an accident. It wasn't a slip. It was a revelation of their character. It showed selfishness, dishonesty, cruelty. And every time they see you succeed, every time you walk into the same room, they're reminded of that side of themselves. That's not guilt. That's shame. And shame doesn't fade with time the way guilt does. Guilt, when handled, can even make people grow. It's a teacher. Shame, left unaddressed, becomes a prison. They keep running, they keep burying, they keep telling themselves stories to cover the truth. But when you walk in, the stories collapse, because your existence is the reminder that no matter how many years pass, no matter how many excuses they pile up, they can't change who they were when they wronged you. Now here's the lie most people fall for. They'll say, if they don't talk to me, if they avoid me, if they act like I never existed, it must mean I didn't matter. Wrong. Their silence is not your erasure. Their avoidance is not your invisibility. Their distance is proof of the depth of their shame. Because if it were just guilt, they could face you, they could laugh, they could greet you, they could shake your hand and move on. But shame. Shame freezes them. Shame ties their throat in knots. Shame makes them stare at the ground when your footsteps echo in the room. And here's the heavy part. They don't just see you when they see you. They see themselves. They see the version of themselves that betrayed you, lied to you, disrespected you, failed you. And that version haunts them. Imagine you are holding up a mirror made of truth, and every time they glimpse you, they're forced to look. They don't just see your face, they see their own reflection, stripped of excuses. That's why they look away. That's why they leave early. That's why they pretend to be busy. It's not about you, it's about the self they can't stand to acknowledge. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." But here's the twist. The greatest enemy of shame is confrontation. And they know it. To confront their shame, they'd have to say, I did wrong, and it wasn't just a mistake. It revealed something ugly inside me. That takes a kind of strength most people never develop. So instead, they avoid. They bury it. They run. But avoidance doesn't heal shame. It only makes the prison stronger. Every time they dodge you, they reinforce the belief that facing you would destroy them. And with each reinforcement, the chains grow tighter. Let me make this practical. Think of an ex-partner who betrayed you. In the moment, maybe they justified it. Maybe they even convinced themselves you were too much or not enough, or that they had the right to do what they did. But months, maybe years later, when they see you smiling, thriving, living with dignity, they feel that sinking in their stomach. Why? Because the story they told themselves doesn't line up with the evidence of your life. You're still standing. You're stronger than before. Their shame is exposed every time they see you breathe with peace. Or take a so-called friend who once mocked you behind your back. They told themselves it was harmless, maybe even funny. But then they see you later, respected, admired, living with confidence, and suddenly the laughter turns sour. Because now you represent the truth they didn't want to face. They tried to tear down someone who never meant them harm. And shame burns hotter than any revenge you could ever plot. Why do they think this way? Because human beings are wired to protect their self-image. When they hurt you, they had two choices: face it and grow, or deny it and run. And if they chose denial, shame became their shadow. Every time you show up, that shadow lengthens. Every time you walk into the room, that shadow falls across their face. They can pretend it's not there, but deep down, they know. And here's where you rise, my friends. Because the fact that they can't face you anymore isn't proof that you're weak. It's proof that you're powerful, not in a loud, vengeful way, but in a quiet, unshakable way. Your existence forces them to confront what they've been avoiding, and that, whether they ever admit it or not, is the punishment they can't escape. So the next time you wonder why they look away, why they avoid your presence, why they go silent, remember this: guilt doesn't make people run, shame does. Guilt can be faced, repaired, even healed. Shame lives in their chest, whispering, "There's something wrong with me," and every time they see you, that whisper turns into a roar. And here's where I want you to land. You are not defined by their silence. You are not diminished by their avoidance. You are elevated by it because it shows the truth. You carry the strength to face what they cannot. You've done the hard work of healing, of rising, of becoming the mirror they cannot bear to look into. Say this with me and type it in the comments. Their shame is not my burden. Write it, show it, declare it to yourself and to the world, because when you hold that truth, you stop chasing, you stop questioning, you stop doubting. You realize that shame is their silent punishment, and your freedom is the loudest proof of all. And stay with me, my friends, because we're only just getting started. In the next part, we'll expose why avoidance isn't peace at all. It's proof. Proof that they're running, not from you, but from themselves. And once you see it for what it really is, you'll never read their silence the same way again. Number 3. Avoidance isn't peace, it's proof. You can tell more about a person by what they avoid than by what they confront. Those words sting because they pull the mask off something most people would rather not admit. Avoidance is not peace. Avoidance is not maturity. Avoidance is not growth. My friends, avoidance is proof. Proof that they are carrying a weight too heavy to lay down in your presence. Proof that they are not as healed, not as strong, not as over it as they'd like you and themselves to believe. Picture this. You walk into a coffee shop you've been visiting for years, you order your drink, take a seat, and start flipping through your phone. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice someone. Someone who once betrayed you, lied to you, disrespected you. The very person who swore they'd moved on, the one who painted themselves as calm, collected, unbothered. They see you, and suddenly their entire body betrays them. They stir their coffee twice as fast. They laugh too loudly at a stranger's joke. They stand up with an awkward shuffle and head for the door, as if the walls just started closing in. They don't even say hello. They just leave. And in that moment, without a single word exchanged, you hear everything you ever needed to hear. Their avoidance screamed louder than any apology ever could. Why does this happen? Because peace can look you in the eye. Peace can sit across the table, sip coffee, and carry a conversation without breaking a sweat. Peace has nothing to hide. Avoidance, though, avoidance hides. It scrolls through a phone pretending to be busy. It crosses the street before you can get close. It leaves early from gatherings, pretending there's somewhere urgent to be. Avoidance is not a reflection of indifference. It's a confession of shame. And here's the lie people love to tell. They'll say, "I just don't want drama. I don't want negativity. I'm choosing my peace." Sounds noble, doesn't it? But let's break that lie. Real peace doesn't need to dodge. Real peace doesn't run. Real peace doesn't twitch when the truth walks into the room. If they were truly at peace, they could face you without flinching. They could stand in your presence and not crumble. But the fact that they run, that's the proof. That's the evidence of the storm inside them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's wisdom in its simplest form. And if they had acted rightly, if they had acted truthfully, they would not need to avoid you now. Avoidance is the receipt of wrong actions. It is the silent acknowledgement of choices they can't defend. It is the body's natural reaction to the presence of someone who holds the mirror of truth without even trying. Think about how the body gives it away. When you walk into the room, they look down. Their shoulders tense. Their laughter feels forced. Their phone suddenly becomes the most interesting object on earth. That's not calm. That's not peace. That's nervous energy, the kind that comes when the mind is screaming, "Don't let them see. Don't let them know. Don't let them get too close to the truth you've been burying." Avoidance is proof. Proof of guilt that turned into shame, proof of wounds that never healed, proof of lies they never had the courage to correct. Let's make this real. Imagine a co-worker who once stole credit for your work. At the time, maybe they felt smug. Maybe they thought they got away with it. But months later, when your career is advancing and your reputation is growing, they can't even look you in the eye during a meeting. They'll sit 2 seats away. They'll keep their comments short. They'll avoid lingering in conversation. Why? Because your success is proof. Proof that you didn't need to cheat. Proof that their actions didn't stop you. Proof that they are the ones who failed the test of character. Avoidance is not peace, it's proof. Or picture a former friend who spread lies behind your back. They convinced themselves it was harmless gossip. They told themselves you'd never find out, or if you did, you'd get over it. But the next time they see you laughing freely, surrounded by people who love you, they suddenly can't breathe. They avoid the event you attend. They make excuses to leave when you arrive. Their shame is written all over their absence. It's proof, my friends, that they never truly found peace. So why is this so hard for people to face? Because avoidance feels safe. It feels like control. They think, if I don't see them, I won't feel the shame. If I stay away, I won't have to deal with the reflection. But here's the truth. They're not avoiding you. They're avoiding themselves. You are only the trigger. You are the reminder. The real collision is between them and the truth they've been dodging for years. And here's where we break another lie. People might say, I'm choosing silence because I don't want conflict. But silence is not always noble. Silence can be a weapon. Silence can be an admission. Silence can be the only way they know how to say, I can't face you because if I do, I'll have to face myself. That's why their avoidance hurts them more than it ever hurts you. Because every time they run, they deepen the prison they're already living in. Epictetus once said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgment concerning them." The event was what they did to you. That's already in the past. What haunts them now is not the act itself, but their judgment of it. And when they see you, their judgment tightens like a noose. Avoidance becomes the only escape hatch they can imagine, but it's not escape at all. It's proof that the truth still owns them. So let me talk to you directly now. Don't let their avoidance confuse you. Don't read their silence as erasure. Don't mistake their absence for indifference. You are not forgotten. You are not dismissed. You are not invisible. If anything, you are unforgettable. Because you carry the light they can't stand to see. You carry the strength they can't pretend doesn't exist. You are the living proof of their failure to rise, their failure to act with integrity, their failure to be who they claimed to be. And here's the beauty. You don't need to confront them to win. You don't need to demand an explanation. You don't need to call out their avoidance. Every step you take forward, every moment you live in peace, every ounce of calm you carry is louder than any accusation could ever be. Because their avoidance, their silence, their distance, that is the confession, that is the proof. So the next time they duck out of the room, the next time they look down, the next time they go quiet when your name comes up, smile to yourself. Because you just witnessed their silent admission. You just heard their unspoken apology. You just saw the proof. And that proof is not your burden to carry. It's theirs. Write this with me in the comments, my friends. Avoidance is not peace. It's proof. Say it. Show it. Own it. Because once you see avoidance for what it truly is, you'll never again let it weaken your spirit. You'll know it for what it really is. Their silent punishment, their unspoken confession, their proof that the truth still haunts them. And stay with me, because next we're going to peel back another layer, the silent apology. How their silence, their absence, their refusal to speak is often the loudest "I'm sorry" they will ever give you. And once you understand that, you'll realize you've already heard the words you were waiting for, just not in the way you expected. Number 4, the silent apology. Silence is sometimes the strongest scream. My friends, if you've ever been left wondering why they don't speak, why they don't explain, why they don't say the words you felt you deserved, you're not alone. We live in a world where people think apologies come wrapped in tidy sentences, neat words like, "I'm sorry, I regret it, I shouldn't have done that." But the truth is, some of the most powerful apologies you'll ever receive won't come through words at all. They'll come through silence, through absence, through the way they can't sit in the same space as you without unraveling. That's the silent apology, and whether you've realized it yet or not, you've probably already heard it. Let's be honest. At first, their silence hurts. It feels like indifference, like you never mattered enough for them to say something, anything. You replay moments in your head, wondering if they even thought about what they did, if they even cared, if they ever looked back with a shred of regret. That's the lie shame whispers in your ear. They don't care. But the reality, silence isn't proof of apathy. It's proof of the exact opposite. It's proof that the weight of their actions is so heavy they can't bear to form the words. Imagine this scenario. You walk into a cafe, the one you've been going to for years. You see them tucked away in a corner, head bent low. For a brief moment, your eyes meet. You don't speak. You don't move. Yet in that instant, they fumble, shift uncomfortably, grab their cup like it just burned them, and bolt for the door. Not a single word was exchanged, but you heard it. Louder than anything they could have said, "I can't sit here and act like nothing happened. I can't handle facing you." I'm sorry. Their exit was their confession. Their silence was their apology. Why does this happen? Because if they truly believed they were right, if they truly believed they had acted with integrity, they'd have no problem meeting your gaze, standing tall, defending themselves. But they don't. They vanish. They dodge. They hide behind quiet. And that quiet is not indifference. It's admission. It's a silent scream that says, "I know what I did, and I can't bring myself to face it." Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one that's the heart of it, isn't it? Words are cheap. Anyone can say sorry. But silence, avoidance, running from your presence, that's not random. That's the body telling the truth the mouth can't speak. Because deep down, they know they weren't the good man, the good friend, the good partner, the good person they should have been. And your presence exposes that. And here's the irony, folks. They think silence protects them. They think avoiding you spares them the pain. But in reality, their silence is the very thing that keeps the pain alive. Every time they go quiet, every time they walk away, every time they refuse to acknowledge you, they feed the fire of shame burning inside them. They may not say the words out loud, but their behavior writes the sentence for them. "I can't handle what I've done." Think about it. Have you ever noticed how silence carries weight? A courtroom goes quiet just before the verdict. A stadium falls silent when the final shot hangs in the air. Silence speaks when words can't carry the truth. And in your life, their silence is saying more than they ever could if they tried to explain themselves. You don't need their speech. You've already been given the message. It just came in a language they didn't intend for you to read. Here's the hard part. Their silence might sting at first because you were conditioned to think closure comes through dialogue. You were told you need that conversation, that apology, that explanation. But what if I told you the apology has already happened? What if every time they avoid your gaze, every time they shift uncomfortably in your presence, every time they leave the room when you enter, that's the apology in action, not in words, but in proof? Let me give you a real-life contrast. Imagine someone steps on your foot by accident. They quickly say, "Sorry." That's guilt. The words match the action. Now imagine someone betrays your trust deeply. Maybe they lied, maybe they disrespected you in a way you'll never forget. Later, instead of apologizing, they avoid you. They leave the party early, they stop replying to messages, they vanish from mutual spaces. That's not guilt anymore. That's shame. And that shame doesn't say, "I'm sorry," with words. It says it with withdrawal, with absence, with silence. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." But avoidance is not bravery. Silence is not freedom. Their quiet is not a sign of strength, it's a confession of weakness. It's their way of admitting, without admitting, that they don't have the courage to look at the reflection you hold up. And that reflection, my friends, is why their silence is louder than words. So let's flip the perspective. Instead of craving their apology in words, recognize the apology in action. Recognize it when they can't stand near you. Recognize it when their body language screams discomfort. Recognize it when their silence hangs in the air like a heavy weight. That is the apology. That is the proof. And ironically, it's stronger than any sentence they could have spoken because it's not rehearsed, not manipulated, not polished. It's raw, it's undeniable. And here's the most empowering part. You don't need to respond. You don't need to chase them down for closure. You don't need to demand an explanation. Every time you keep your composure, every time you continue living in alignment with your values, every time you walk into a room with calm confidence, you amplify the volume of their silent apology. Your dignity turns their silence into thunder. Your peace makes their avoidance roar in their own head. You don't need their words. You've already received their truth. But I know what you're thinking. Why is it so hard for them to just say it? Why not just come clean, admit the wrong, apologize, and move on? The answer is simple. Shame doesn't let people speak easily. To say, "I'm sorry" out loud would mean confronting not just the act, but the self behind the act. It would mean admitting, "I was small, I was weak, I was dishonorable." And for many people, that's a mirror too sharp to face. So they say nothing, they vanish, they go quiet. But in doing so, they give you the loudest message of all. My friends, let this shift your perspective. Stop waiting for words that may never come. Stop replaying old conversations in your head, imagining what they should say. Recognize the apology that's already in front of you. Their silence is their confession. Their absence is their statement. Their avoidance is their "I'm sorry." It may not be spoken, but it is real, and once you see it, you stop longing for what you already have. So here's your affirmation today. Say it with me. Type it in the comments. Declare it to yourself and the world. I hear the apology in their silence. Write it, own it, let it free you from the need to chase closure. Because when you recognize the silent apology, you realize you already have the truth you were searching for. And stay with me, because next we're going even deeper. We'll talk about why your steadfastness, the calm, unshaken way you live your life, becomes the weapon they can't defend against. You'll see how dropping the rope of reaction destroys the game they were trying to play, and why your silence, not their avoidance, is the real power in the end. Number 5. Steadfastness as your weapon. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words nearly 2,000 years ago, and my friends, they remain just as true today. When someone wrongs you, when they betray you, when they disrespect you, they count on a predictable reaction. They want you to break. They want you to lash out, to scream, to collapse, to spiral, because if you do, they get to tell themselves a story. They get to say, "See, I was right. They're unstable. They're too much. They couldn't handle it." But what happens when you don't break? What happens when you remain steadfast, calm, unshaken? That's when the entire script collapses. And that, my friends, is the most devastating weapon you will ever carry. Think about it. Imagine a tug of war. They pull on the rope, expecting you to pull back with all your might. They've prepared for resistance. They've planned for your reaction. But instead, you let go. The rope falls slack in their hands. Suddenly, the game is over. Their entire strategy depended on you engaging, and without your participation, they're left looking foolish, holding a rope that means nothing. That's the power of steadfastness. That's the quiet, unshakable strength they cannot counter. And here's the part that might surprise you. Steadfastness is not passivity. Some people confuse the two. They think if you don't fight back, if you don't argue, if you don't demand your side be heard, then you're weak. But true steadfastness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the hardest thing. It's about choosing discipline over impulse. It's about refusing to let your peace be hijacked by their chaos. That's not weakness, that's self-mastery. Now let's be real. This isn't easy. When someone betrays you, your first instinct is to react. Anger rises in your chest. Questions flood your mind. How could they? Why would they? Don't they know what they've done to me? You want to send the long message. You want to make the phone call. You want to show them the pain they caused. That's the storm of emotion pushing you to break your own peace. And this is exactly what they expect. But when you resist that urge, when you breathe and choose not to play their game, you take back every ounce of power they thought they had over you. Here's the truth, folks. A person who mistreats you is often running on a predictable cycle. They hurt you, then they wait. They watch for your reaction. If you collapse, they feel powerful. If you lash out, they feel justified. But when you remain calm, you disrupt the entire cycle. They don't know what to do with a person who doesn't feed their narrative. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability dismantles control. Picture this. A close friend betrays your trust. Maybe they shared something you told them in confidence. Maybe they spoke against you when you weren't there. They expect you to come running, demanding answers, blowing up their phone with messages, needing to know why. Instead, you step back. You say nothing. You keep living, working, smiling, posting pictures with people who truly value you. You're not doing it to provoke them. You're simply moving forward. But to them, every smile is a reminder they didn't break you. Every photo is a quiet statement. I am still here. I am still strong. I am still building. That silence burns more than any argument ever could. And this is where we break another lie. People think control is loud. They think the one who shouts, demands, and points fingers is the one with power. But no. True control is quiet. True control is when you can feel the storm inside, but still stand tall, still smile, still choose peace. That composure is terrifying to someone who counted on your collapse. It magnifies their shame. It exposes their weakness. It leaves them no script to hide behind. Let me bring in another Stoic truth. Epictetus said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That's what steadfastness is, refusing to give away your estimate, refusing to let their actions define your state of mind. They thought they could control your emotions. They thought they could push a button and watch you fall apart. But when you refuse to give them that satisfaction, they lose the only weapon they ever had. And don't miss this point. Steadfastness protects your inner peace. Your peace is your most valuable treasure. Without it, you're tossed around by every word, every action, every memory. But with it, you become untouchable. Think of it like a fortress. If every insult, every betrayal is allowed through the gates, your mind becomes a battlefield. But when you build strong walls of self-control, only the right influences enter. You decide who gets access. You decide what gets to disturb your calm. That's what steadfastness does. It guards your fortress. It protects your peace. Now let's zoom in on them for a second. What do they see when you remain steadfast? Every time they look at you, they see proof that they failed. Proof that their betrayal didn't destroy you. Proof that their disrespect didn't define you. Proof that their lies didn't chain you down. You are still standing, still building, still thriving. And to them, that realization cuts deeper than any words you could have thrown their way. It's why they can't face you. It's why they avoid you. Because your steadfastness tells a story they can't rewrite. You thought you broke me, but I did not break. Here's the irony, folks. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought your calm meant surrender. But in reality, your silence became the mirror of their failure. Your calm became the proof of your strength. Your steadfastness became the weapon they can't fight. Because how do you fight someone who refuses to fight you back? How do you control someone who no longer reacts? You can't. And that helplessness eats at them more than anything else ever could. And here's where I want to land with you. Steadfastness is not just about them. It's not just about showing them you can't be broken. It's about showing yourself. It's about proving to your own soul that you don't need revenge, you don't need validation, you don't need their recognition to stand tall. You have your own back, you honor your own worth, you walk with your own dignity, and once you taste that kind of strength, you'll never settle for less again. So let's make this practical. The next time you feel the urge to lash out, the next time you're tempted to explain yourself to someone who doesn't deserve it, pause, breathe, remember the rope. Remember that the only way they win is if you play their game. Drop the rope, walk away, and let your life become the evidence. Because, my friends, steadfastness is your silent weapon. It's not about proving them wrong with words. It's about proving them wrong with your life. It's about living in such a way that every step you take is a reminder they don't control you anymore. So say this with me right now. Type it in the comments. Show yourself. Show me. Show the world. My calm is my weapon. Write it. Own it. Live it. Because when you carry that truth, you stop being reactive, you stop being predictable, you stop being controlled, you become unshakable. And that, my friends, is a power no one can ever take from you. Stay with me, because in the next section, we're going to dive into something that makes steadfastness even more impenetrable: psychological boundaries. The invisible armor that protects your soul, your peace, and your future from ever being touched by the chaos of others again. Number 6. Psychological boundaries. Access revoked. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius left us that reminder, and my friends, if there is one area where this truth becomes a shield for your soul, it is in the discipline of boundaries. Not the walls people imagine, not the barbed wires of bitterness, but the invisible lines of self-respect that decide who can step close and who must remain at a distance. Boundaries are not punishments. Boundaries are declarations. This is where my peace begins and where your chaos ends. Imagine your life like a fortress. In the past, maybe those gates were wide open. Anyone could walk in. Friends, partners, family, even strangers. You let their words, their moods, their energy rush straight into your heart. And some of them, they didn't come to build. They came to tear down. They came to take advantage of your kindness, your trust, your openness. They left you with broken pieces, and for a long time you thought protecting yourself meant closing the gates forever. But Stoicism teaches something different. The answer isn't to shut yourself away from the world. The answer is to guard the gates. You decide who enters, how close they come, and how much influence they carry. That is the art of psychological boundaries. Here's the lie most people fall for. If I keep them out, I'm being mean. If I say no, I'll look selfish. If I distance myself, I'll be seen as cold. That's not truth. That's manipulation talking. Because the people who complain about your boundaries are usually the ones who benefited from you not having any. They want the old you, the you that bent until you broke, the you that said yes when you wanted to say no, the you that tolerated disrespect in the name of loyalty. But once you rise, once you reclaim your peace, those days are over. Boundaries don't make you cold. Boundaries make you wise. Think about it. When someone has wronged you, their favorite way back into your life is emotional access. They know your soft spots. They know how to guilt trip you, how to use nostalgia, how to spark old memories to make you lower your guard. They might say things like, "But we've been through so much together," or "Don't you think you're being a little harsh?" Or the classic, "I've changed, trust me." But when your boundaries are strong, their tricks bounce off like arrows against armor. You don't crumble at the first apology. You don't fall for promises with no proof. You don't let familiarity become a hall pass back into your life. And this is exactly why many of them avoid you now, because your boundaries remind them of the access they've lost. Picture this. A former friend who betrayed you sends a casual message after months of silence. "Hey, stranger, we should catch up sometime." The old you would have jumped, eager for explanation, ready to reopen that door just to understand what happened. But the new you reply briefly, if at all. You don't open the door wide because you know what waits on the other side. Or maybe you don't respond at all, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And that silence, that boundary, it speaks louder than anything. It says, access revoked. The gate is closed until you've proven you deserve to step inside again. And here's the kicker. Boundaries send a message without you saying a word. When someone bumps into your boundaries, they don't just see a line, they feel it. It tells them, I value myself enough to protect myself. It unsettles them, especially if they were used to the old you who tolerated their behavior. They don't know how to handle it because their old tools, guilt, manipulation, charm, don't work anymore. Every failed attempt reminds them that the power they once had is gone forever, and that truth, that's unbearable for them. Seneca once said, "No man is free who is a slave to his body." Let's stretch that. No person is free who is a slave to other people's opinions, moods, and manipulations. Boundaries set you free because they remind you that not every voice deserves space in your mind. Not every person deserves a seat at your table. Not every action deserves a reaction. When you understand this, you stop being controlled by the storms outside your gates. Now, let's get practical. What do psychological boundaries look like in real life? They look like choosing not to respond to a text that reopens old wounds. They look like saying, "I'm not comfortable with that," and standing by it. They look like limiting conversations to protect your energy. They look like refusing to entertain gossip, lies, or manipulation. Boundaries are not walls to keep everyone out. They are filters to decide what comes in. And when you have them, you walk lighter, calmer, freer. And here's something most people don't realize. Strong boundaries make you more intimidating to those who've wronged you. Why? Because boundaries are proof that you've learned. They show you're not the same person they manipulated, lied to, or betrayed. You're not the same person they expected to control. You've upgraded. You've leveled up. You've built invisible armor. And they can feel it. Every time they test the line and find it firm, they're reminded of the truth. The access they once abused is gone for good. But what about you? What do boundaries do for your spirit? They protect your inner peace. Without them, every insult lands. Every opinion shakes you. Every mood from someone else becomes your storm. With them, you finally see the difference between what belongs to you and what belongs to them. Their anger, not yours. Their shame, not yours. Their lies, not yours. Boundaries remind you, that's on them, not me. And with that separation, your peace becomes untouchable. Now, I know some of you feel this resistance rise in your chest. But what if I lose people? What if setting boundaries drives them away? My friends, let me tell you this with all the strength I have. Anyone you lose by respecting yourself was never meant to stay. Let them go. Because the right people will never be threatened by your boundaries. They'll respect them. They'll honor them. They'll feel safer because of them. Boundaries don't push away love. They protect it. What they push away is manipulation, disrespect, and chaos. And trust me, that's a trade worth making every time. So let's land this here. Psychological boundaries are your invisible armor. They don't scream, they don't argue, they don't fight. They simply stand. They simply say, I know my worth and I protect it. And when someone who wronged you sees that armor, it rattles them to their core because they realize the tools they once used no longer work. The doors they once walked through are locked. The access they once abused is gone. And here's the beauty. You don't need to punish them. You don't need to block every number or slam every door. Most of the time, my friends, they'll block themselves because standing in your presence, facing your boundaries, is a reminder of what they lost and who they failed to be. They'd rather avoid you than face the truth those boundaries represent. So say this with me right now. Write it in the comments. Show me, show yourself, show the world. My boundaries protect my peace. Own it, declare it, live it. Because once you do, you'll never again question why they avoid you. You'll know it's not rejection, it's intimidation, it's not indifference, it's proof. Proof that you've grown, proof that you've risen, proof that you are no longer someone who can be played. Stay with me, my friends, because in the next section, we'll dive even deeper. We'll uncover why self-worth and inner peace, your two untouchable treasures, become the ultimate weapons, the shield and the prize. The things they cannot steal, cannot fake, and cannot ever take from you once you've claimed them for yourself. And once you see how those treasures work together, you'll understand why your presence feels like exposure to them, and why their shame only grows stronger in the light you carry. Number 7. Self-worth and inner peace, the untouchable weapons. No man is free who is not master of himself. Those words from Epictetus echo through time, and my friends, this is where everything we've been building toward comes together. Because when the storms of betrayal, disrespect, and lies rage against you, there are two treasures that no one, not a friend, not an enemy, not a betrayer, can take from you once you claim them: self-worth and inner peace. They are invisible, they are unstoppable, and they are the reason they can't face you anymore. Let's start with self-worth. Self-worth is not arrogance, it's not ego, It's not walking into the room thinking you're better than everyone else. No, self-worth is quieter, deeper, stronger. It is the unshakable knowledge that you are valuable, that you are deserving of respect, that your worth is not negotiable, no matter who stays, no matter who leaves, no matter who whispers lies about you in the dark. Self-worth is the foundation. Without it, every insult shakes you, every betrayal defines you, every absence feels like rejection. But with it, you stand tall. You stop negotiating with people who treat you like less. You stop begging for closure from people who never had the courage to give it. You stop trying to prove yourself to people who never deserve to sit in judgment of you. Picture yourself as a shield. Every time someone tries to diminish you, every time they avoid you, every time they attempt to rewrite history, that shield of self-worth catches their attack. It doesn't bounce it back in vengeance. It doesn't crumble under the pressure. It simply absorbs it, reminds you, this is not about me. This is about them. That's what self-worth does. It separates your identity from their actions. It reminds you that you are not what they did. You are not what they said. You are not the betrayal, the lie, the rumor, the disrespect. You are still you. Whole, valuable, enough. And when you carry that shield into the world, it rattles them. Because for so long, they defined their power by how easily you bent, how quickly you reacted, how much of your self-image you placed in their hands. But now you've taken it back. Now you've said, my worth is not up for debate. And that terrifies them. Because their avoidance, their silence, their shame, it all comes from the same root. They realize they no longer have the power to define you. Now let's talk about inner peace. If self-worth is the shield, inner peace is the treasure. It's the thing they can't touch no matter how close they get. Inner peace is the decision to stop replaying old betrayals on repeat. It's the decision to stop plotting revenge, to stop burning energy on what if and why me. Inner peace is choosing not to live chained to the past, but to live fully in the present. It's smiling in spite of scars. It's sleeping at night without the weight of bitterness on your chest. It's walking into a room knowing that you don't need to prove anything because your life already speaks for itself. And here's the irony. Inner peace is the one thing they expected you would never find. They thought their betrayal would leave you restless. They thought their disrespect would haunt you. They thought their absence would break you. But when you rise with peace in your heart, it shakes them more than anything else, because peace is power. Peace is control. Peace is freedom. Think of inner peace like a fortress, not a cold, empty castle with walls too high for anyone to reach, but a sanctuary built strong and secure. People may knock, they may shout from outside, but unless you open the gates, they can't come in. That's what makes peace untouchable. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be faked. It cannot be destroyed unless you give permission. And when they see you living with that calm, when they see you thriving, laughing, breathing easy, they're forced to face the truth. They didn't break you. They revealed you. Let me give you a real-life snapshot. Picture someone who once tried to tear down your confidence. Maybe it was a toxic boss who told you you'd never make it. Maybe it was an ex-partner who told you you'd fall apart without them. Maybe it was a so-called friend who rolled their eyes at your dreams. They were certain you'd crumble. They bet on your collapse. But now, months or years later, they see you standing strong, smiling with self-assurance, radiating peace. You don't gloat. You don't point fingers. You don't even need to mention their name. You simply exist as proof that their words were lies. That, my friends, is why they can't face you. Because your calm is louder than their chaos, and your life is louder than their lies. And here's where the Stoic philosophy ties it all together. Stoicism teaches us that our happiness does not depend on what others do, but on how we govern our own minds. Self-worth is governing your identity. Inner peace is governing your spirit. Together, they make you unshakable. Together, they make your presence unbearable for those who tried to shatter you. Because while they are still carrying shame like a heavy stone in their chest, you are walking free, carrying nothing but dignity and peace. Now let's break another lie. People will tell you, revenge is the only way to balance the scales. But revenge ties you to them forever. Revenge keeps the rope in your hand, keeps the story alive, keeps the wound open. Self-worth and inner peace, on the other hand, cut the rope. They close the book. They end the story. And that ending, that freedom, that calm, that's the punishment they never saw coming. Because nothing torments the guilty more than seeing the person they wronged living well, living free, living untouched by their shadow. So here's where I bring it to you. Don't chase them. Don't crave their apology. Don't waste your energy plotting their downfall. Instead, invest that energy into building your shield of self-worth and your fortress of inner peace. Because once you have those, you become untouchable. Once you have those, you no longer flinch at their avoidance. Once you have those, their shame becomes their prison, and your peace becomes your liberation. And my friends, I want you to say this with me right now. Type it in the comments, declare it, show it to yourself and the world. My peace is priceless. My worth is unshakable. Write it down, not just for me, but for you. Because every time you affirm it, every time you speak it, you reinforce the truth that no one can take these weapons from you. And as we close this journey together, let me remind you of this. They may never say the words. They may never face you. They may never admit the truth. But their silence is their confession, their avoidance is their apology, and their shame is their punishment. Meanwhile, your self-worth and your inner peace are your victory. You won. You rose. You chose freedom over revenge, dignity over chaos, and peace over bitterness. And that, my friends, is the life they will never have until they face themselves. So, if this message hit home for you, do me one favor. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs the reminder that they can rise without revenge. Let's spread this truth. Let's build this community of strength, and let's keep walking forward together. Because in the end, your calm is your weapon, your worth is your shield, and your peace is your crown. And that, my friends, is untouchable.